Welcome to Alouettes Flightdeck, podcast dedicated to Montreal Alouettes football. I am your host, Tim Capper. You can find me on X at Repact. That's Reppact.
And I'm Cliffy D. You can also find me on X at Cliffy D. And this episode of the Alouettes Flightdeck podcast is presented by our good friends over at SportBuff, where if you go and use the promo code ALSFlightdeck10 at checkout, you will save 10% off your entire order. Head on over to www.sportbuffshop.com, use the promo code, save some money, buy some great merch, and as always, support local.
Hey, don't worry if you missed an episode of the past Alouettes Flightdeck podcast. You can check out our archive over at www.alouettesflightdeck.ca. You can also find us on X, formerly Twitter, at AlouettesFLDeck. Facebook, you can find us over at Alouettes Flightdeck Pod. Instagram over at Alouettes Flightdeck. And you can also find us, too, on Threads at Alouettes Flightdeck. YouTube, you can find all of our past archives of our live episodes and also of the audio version of this podcast. Also, you can go to youtube.com/Alouettes Flightdeck. And lastly, do not forget, if you're looking to rep the podcast with merchandise of our own, you can head over to www.flightdeckgear.ca and rep us on this coming Sunday. Wear one Alouettes, wear us underneath it, something like that. Rep us during the game. I don't know. Maybe somebody will ask you what that logo is, and then you can tell them, and you can, it's kind of like a bring a friend type of thing, Cliff. One friend brings another and brings another and brings another, that type of thing. Mm-hmm. And we can get some new listeners for the podcast. Why not, right?
100%. And yes, we definitely appreciate each and every one of you that likes, subscribes, follows, however it is that you're enjoying the Alouettes Flight Deck. We appreciate each and every one of you doing that. Make sure you tell a friend, tell a coworker, tell everybody about the Alouettes Flight Deck.
Yep. Also, real quickly, you can find us on Blue Sky also. It would be at Repact, at Cliffy D, and at Alouettes FL Deck. So you can find us there. We are taping this on an earlier day because we have a busy week ahead of us. And I'm sure, as you can tell by how we are doing so far, that we are really struggling. And considering that you drove, wow, my thoughts to you, buddy. I mean, it's so much driving, but all of us are just us and our significant others. It was a hell of a weekend in TO. But man, the day that we're taping this on the Monday, even though you're probably listening to this on the Tuesday, it was just such an experience in itself. Being able to see the Owls play in the Eastern Final in TO and coming away with a result completely different than it was in 2022.
What a difference a year makes. I think that is a very bold yet apropos statement.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this time last year...
Maybe even the title of this podcast.
Oh, I got ideas for the title of this podcast. But yeah, this time last year, we go to Toronto, watch the Alouettes come within a converted touchdown away from being in the Grey Cup game. And it was a bitter pill to swallow. I mean, this team gone through trials and tribulations. It was a bit of a crazy year last year, but they somehow came together. They made it, and you thought, okay, yeah, it sucks. They lost. But there's always next year. There's always the opportunity to get better. There's always, if this team stays the way it is right now, this could be a competitive team. This could be a team that, can do something special. Well, we had quite the off season,
mm-hmm.
where everything got turned on its ear. A lot of those key players that were in that Eastern Final last year flew the coop, so to speak, were replaced with other players, other notable players, a new head coach, a new president and CEO,
mm-hmm.
a new owner.
Yeah.
Another one of those WTF moments that kind of came about during the offseason. A lot of things changed so much since November 2022 for this Montreal Alouettes organization. And there was a lot of doubt. There was a lot of concern. There was a lot of people saying, this is not good. Like, what's going on with the Alouettes is not good. It's terrible. Like, the doom and gloom is back. This is going to be another train wreck, another dumpster fire. All these terrible things people were saying about this team. But something happened, Tim, and it took a little while to get to where we are today. But through determination, perseverance, any number of adjectives I can come up with to describe what this Alouettes team went through, it was all worth it, because the Montreal Alouettes this Sunday will be playing in the 110th Grey Cup game against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Almost nobody in the world could have foreseen this coming. And my God, what a game to get there. What an absolute mind F of a game to be a witness to. I mean, if I hadn't seen it there live at BMO Field with my own two eyes, I don't think I would have believed it. I would have, like, is this real life? Is this really happening? Like, just, it's incredible. It was absolutely incredible just how the Montreal Alouettes managed to beat the 16-2 and defending Grey Cup champion Toronto Argonauts on their own turf, and not just beat them, not just squeaked by with a win. I mean, they punked them. They beat them. They were dominant. They just, Chad Kelly and company had literally no answer for this Alouettes team. It was absolutely unbelievable. I think that's the best way to describe it, would be unbelievable. Like, this is just wow. Like, we were sitting in that stadium in a state of shock.
Yeah.
And elation, of course. Like, don't get us wrong. We were very, very excited that the Alouettes are going to be playing for the Grey Cup, but we're still looking at each other like, is this real? Like, is this really happening the way that it is? It's, I mean, my God. I mean, there's really no other way to describe it. It's just absolute.
No, Chad Kelly didn't eat his Flutie Flakes.
No, Chad. Listen, I've been saying, like, Chad Kelly proved a lot to a lot of people this year, and he is. I'll still say he is very much a phenomenal quarterback, but he picked a bad day to have a bad day.
Yeah. Alouettes beat the Argos, beat all the prognosticators, beat all the pundits, beat the line 38-17 over the Toronto Argonauts. Not everything was perfect, but it didn't need to be, because it's how the Alouettes did it. And they overcame a shaky offensive line. They did things earlier that they'd done earlier in the year for the Argos, against the Argos, which they're able to pull off again. This team, it was just, I don't want to use the word decimate. I mean, the Owls really did decimate these Argos. I mean, this is a record-setting Argos team, 16-2 coming into the game. Only the second team in CFL history to win 16 games in a regular season. But Cliff, that little thing called the Curse of 1989 rears its ugly head for the second time, where a 16-win team, regular season's wins, does not advance to the Grey Cup.
It sounds incredible. I mean, you think, okay, 16 wins, 2 losses. Like, this should be a foregone conclusion. And truthfully, a lot of people had said, okay, the Argos have done too much, have gone too far. There's no way that they're not going to be in the Grey Cup. Sorry. I mean, Montreal fans should be very happy that their team made it this far, and some would even suggest luck, which is, absolutely ridiculous to say. But I think just, be happy that you made it this far. You should be very proud of the fact you made it this far. But this Alouettes team wasn't subscribing to that. They were not just happy to be there, as they say. They knew once they beat the Hamilton Tiger Cats in the Eastern semifinal, once they went on that incredible run to finish the regular season, they knew, like, we're good. We are a good football team, and we're going to show everyone. If people are still doubting us, guess what? We're going to show you. And show you they did. I mean, this Alouettes team really is something special. And I'm talking about all three facets of the ball. I mean, offense, defense, special teams.
And they're not done yet. They're not done yet. And by this all started, by the way. A lot of people are like, Tim, you're grasping at straws here when you say this. But, first, we found out that the Alouettes were going to wear their red jerseys, their new unis on the road. And I had to look it up real quick because we were in stadium when we saw this, right, Cliff? We saw the tweet and then we saw them. I was like, what? Didn't see this happening. And I don't know. I said, some say just history is history, but the last time they had worn alternate uniforms was in 2006. And by the way, Cliff, that was versus Toronto. Oh, and by the way, Cliff, they also beat Toronto in 2006 to go to the Grey Cup. So whether they knew history or if it was just a choice that they did, because we've already found out we'll talk about this once we get into the quick synopsis of what's coming up for Saturday, for Sunday. We already know what they're wearing because it's already been announced. But yeah, it just started off from there, and we've had games this year, Cliff, where the Owls have started off quick, and it's this game. I mean, this game was on the level of the Ty Richards opening pick six. That's what this was, except it was, it wasn't the same result when Tyler Richards got his pick six. I mean, it just started off. Owls didn't, they didn't win. They won the toss, elected for the second half. Argos drove down. AJ Alouette doing what he does, but the first of many that come. Interception is thrown by Chad Kelly, but just wasn't any regular interception thrown. It was a pick six. And it was a pick six to Qua again. So,
yep. And just like he did in Ottawa several weeks ago, the opposing team is threatening in the red zone. Mm-hmm. He reads the mail and goes on a long run to the end zone.
Yep. 101 yards.
I mean,
he just picked his pocket, man. He just picked the receiver's pocket.
Oh, I don't think the receiver even had a chance to get a finger on the ball. Like, that's how quick the claw was. And yeah, Marc-Antoine just nabbed it, took it to the house. And once again, there goes the most outstanding Canadian, at least as far as the Eastern teams go. Mm-hmm. I mean, he could. There's still a chance he could win the award on Thursday at the CFL Awards in Niagara Falls. But my goodness, again, it was absolutely sensational and caught everybody by surprise and just automatically like set the tone. Like at that point, it was like, oh, okay, these are not the same Alouettes that the Argos walked all over back in September at BMO Field.
Yeah, you look at the crowd when he went on this pick six on TV. You could tell right away because for a lot of the fans, it just got worse and worse and worse. Just the reaction just got worse and worse as the game went on. So,
yep, I think again credit to Toronto and the Argonauts organization for packing in. Well, they announced the attendance at 26,000 plus.
Yeah.
And they were coming to watch the Argos win and go to the Grey Cup next week. they probably, I don't know how many of these casual fans know about the Argos and how many of them even knew about the Alouettes and what they could expect from this team, but
They
there was a
never got
lot
a
of
chance to get loud. They never got a chance to get loud during the game. And if they
no.
did, it was their first touchdown in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and that's you're kind of burying the lead there. The Alouettes defense just proved how dominant they could be by keeping Chad Kelly, his talented receivers, AJ Ouellette, Andrew Harris, all of those offensive weapons that the Argonauts have, kept them off the score sheet for not one, not two, not three. Yeah, okay, so three quarters.
Does that seem familiar, by the way? That is like a playbook that the Alouettes defense has done so many times in the regular season.
And they did it the week before against Hamilton too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, wow.
I know. And as I mentioned before, and we're going to make sure that we give this defense the props that they deserve. But we were talking about how this game wasn't perfect. That first half, we've had a couple of these type of first halves this year where, but it's been a knock 'em out, drag 'em out type of first half, and that's exactly what it was. Hardly any scoring at all. The Owls only had a 10-3 lead at halftime.
Mm-hmm.
But really, the score itself wasn't really indicative of what the first half was at all, was it, Cliff? Because on one side of the ball, the Alouettes had 4 turnovers in the first half, but it had only 7 points to show for it. But on the other side of the ball, the O-line, the Owls O-line gave up 5 sacks in the first half. So there was a lot to take in. Even though the Owls were up 10-3 at halftime, there was still a lot to take in and a lot that needed to be done during the halftime break, before the Owls really got going.
Yeah, it was tough sledding for the offense. I mean, Cody Fajardo was able to make some nice plays happen, but more often than not, like, he was just getting steamrolled essentially, or running into his offensive line and then getting tackled for a loss. And too many times he was holding on to the ball and just sometimes just get rid of the ball. Like he wasn't doing that, and just
it's part of the mantra I said this year, and I've said it the past couple of weeks. It's the consistently consistent Cody. But
Cody cubed, but
something, man. C cubed. So I mean, but again, we're talking about the defense, and sure, things had to be changed up for the offense at halftime. But what the defense did in that first half, dude. I mean, as I said, there were 4 turnovers by the Argos in that first half.
Yeah,
and
turnovers on downs.
Yeah, I'm about to say that's just where I was going.
Right.
Specifically, those 2 turnover on downs.
Especially
driving too, by the way. People got to remember this. They were inside the 20.
Yeah, I think even at one point too, there was a goal line stand, and AJ Ouellette just got stifled, I believe, twice. Like, I think it was the first down and second down. It was just, he did his best, but just he was not going to be. This defense was not going to be denied. Like, they slammed the door on AJ Ouellette and the Argos offense. And again, you could hear, like, even the people around us, the Argo fans around us, were just like, what the hell? Like, what? Mm-hmm. How? Like, you're that close and you can't score? What? And we're just like, my God, we're watching this defense, this Noel Thorpe defense, just go to yet another level. Like, just finding something that they had inside themselves and putting it all out there, because it really is win or go home at this point. So, I mean, they were not ready to go home. Clearly, they wanted to prove to everyone that they were who they said they were. And my God, this defense, just so many weapons, so many great opportunities, like so many incredible plays too. I mean, they were bullying the Argos, like the 16-2 Argos, who are able to put up on average 30 points per game, and they stifled them. They truly throttled them. It was incredible. I mean, yeah, that first half, score wise, I mean, if you like lots of scoring, you were probably bored to tears. But if you like defensive football, like hard nosed, smash mouth defensive football, you were getting a lot of that in the first half, and the score very much showed like, okay, yeah, 2 field goals and a Marc-Antoine Dequoy pick six. That's your scoring for the first half.
Yeah. Again, the Owls, interception, 2 turnovers on downs, and that fumble. Owls gave it up on the Cody Fajardo interception, a pass that shouldn't have been thrown. I've said that many a time this year on his single interceptions that he's usually had. But the Owls got it right back on the next play with got clarification. We thought it was going to be a strip sack, but the only reason why it wasn't a strip sack, Cliff, is because the ball went forward and they actually gained. It was actually a gain of 4 yards. So it was just a fumble recovery. So
yeah,
I think they did what they needed to do. But man, whatever was said at halftime, this team comes out in the second half, and you thought the first half was cool when it came to the defense.
Oh my!
Everybody got together finally, offense and defense, in that second half.
Everybody was eating in that second half defensively. My God,
what do you put on cooked Argonaut?
That's a good question. One that I'll be sure to ask on media day when I'm in Hamilton later this week.
Maybe you sprinkle it with a little bit of gravy and cheese curds. Maybe I mean, we may put 10 out of the Argos. I don't know.
Can you really call it bird food at this point? But
caw. There, how? Yeah. But man, I'm looking at this the drive chart here for the Argos in the second half. Man, I mean, it's like interception, turnover on downs. I mean, it's the Owls had they had an answer for everything. Especially I think after we've seen this happen before. And I think it happened last year. Did it happen last year in the East Final where blown coverage and the Argos were able to score a long touchdown? This happened again this week also. We still don't know where the coverage broke down. But this time around, the Owls did have an answer for it. And it was from a gentleman that we have come to know and love. He may be small. He's my height. He may be 5'7", but James Letcher, man, ever since coming onto this roster with Chandler Worthy going down, he's made a name for himself, dude. And bringing that ball to the house, kickoff return for a touchdown. Seeing Boris Bede I don't know if how many times you've watched that play. Boris Bede just got destroyed on that return. And James was like, whoosh, right by him.
Like quicker than a hiccup, as they say. I mean, wow. And yet, James Letcher, you can measure his height, but his heart, I don't think, can be measured. I mean, he came into, I would say, the perfect storm. I mean, yes, the Alouettes over the past couple of years have been blessed when it came to kick returns or punt return touchdowns. Mario Alford did a fantastic job for the Alouettes.
Yeah.
Then when he got hurt, in comes Chandler Worthy, doesn't skip a beat. He too does amazing things, returning the ball, scoring touchdowns, and just being an absolute menace to anyone on special teams. Unfortunately, he goes down to injury. Okay, next man up. That's what they talk about all the time, right? Next man up.
Yeah.
And the next man up was a guy, as you said, small in stature, but huge on heart. Guy that just needed the opportunity. Like you just got the feeling. I said it before and I'll say it again. We got the feeling this guy is just primed to break one off in a big way. And he did it in Edmonton against the Elks. He did it against the Hamilton Tiger Cats in the regular season finale. at Percival Wilson Stadium. And he's like, "What do you do for an encore?" "Oh, just kick return touchdown for the Eastern Final." I like that'll work. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with that. Like, that's wow. And even with speaking with him afterwards, like, he was just still so humble, but you could see the elation on his face, like the absolute joy, knowing that, okay, I belong here.
This is James Letcher. I know you were talking about the post game, but did you watch the Alouettes post game show with Joey Alfieri? He was on it, and he's like a kid in a candy store because his initial reaction when he came to talk to Joey was priceless. But so then Joey brings on somebody else, and James goes through whatever he does, but then he comes by again, and you see him as he's coming by. Make sure he looks directly in the camera and gives it a little smirk as he walks by. I mean, that's the type of dude. That's the type of dude and we've had such a great history when it comes to these little guys. God, what short in stature guys being just absolute menaces when it comes to being special teams demons. I mean, really have.
Oh yeah, it's this team. I mean, there was a time when they were struggling to find a punt or kick returner that could do something special. It took a while for them to find and come across, like, for example, the Mario Alfords and the Chandler Worthies. But in the past, this team has always done extremely well with these fun-sized, shall we say, returners. But like I said, you can't measure heart, and these guys have it in spades. And James Letcher is just the latest in that a very strong lineage of Alouette kick returners that are just absolutely phenomenal playmakers. And you got to see it once again during the Eastern Final. Just absolutely incredible.
And if we needed anything else to really put an exclamation point on this game, but we're still got to give some huge props to the defense. But the final nail in the coffin was that Jeshua Antwi touchdown.
Yeah.
Do you notice in that play that how that play was done? It's just like nobody on the Argos defense. I don't want to say that they gave up on that play, but that's probably one of the easiest touchdowns Jeshua's had all year.
He more or less sauntered into the end zone. Yeah. He didn't so much run in as he just kind of nice little strut practically into the end zone. He was untouched. He just, I think at that point, the Argos, they knew they were beat, and they had nothing left at that point. And credit to Jeshua. I mean, I think back, like, he got involved in that melee with Chris Edwards during the Eastern semifinal, and we were worried. Okay, especially once inadvertently a referee got knocked down. Like, oh crap, he's getting suspended. You can't put your hands on a referee. You just can't do that. Turns out, though, he was accidentally bumped into, like, a Tiger Cats player bumped into him, who in turn bumped into the referee. So I guess they took that into court, and Jeshua was fined for his participation in that Donnybrook, and that's all it was just a fine. Thankfully, no suspension, because that meant he got to play, and he delivered the kill shot. Essentially, he put the final nail in the coffin. He basically, with that touchdown, the Alouettes officially punched their ticket to the Grey Cup game on Sunday.
Yeah, and a lot of the stuff this week, again, where everything seemed to be set up, because of the defense and the offense. They took advantage of the opportunities that they were given. I mean, this is an Argos team, dude, that had nine total turnovers in this game to the Owls 1. I mean, it's one led to a Snead touchdown, and we're talking the Kabian Ento. There's another dude that we have. He has had such a roller coaster season, but Kabian Ento, what a pick six by this dude. That this was midway through the third quarter, and brought it back to the house, man. 22 yards for another pick six. I think it's the second time that the Owls have done that this year, having 2 pick sixes in a single game.
Yep. And who better to have that than Kabian Ento, who during that first time the Alouettes played the Argos at Percival Wilson Stadium, he was burnt like toast. Like, he
multiple times. And if you go back to the archives, and you'll hear from us, you'll hear it. But he gradually got better, dude. I mean, it's just what a way to just whatever. We still don't know what was said in that bye week that turned him around.
And we may
I mean,
never know.
switching sides. That was one of the things. We
I
know
believe.
he was also benched for a week. We do that. We know that too.
Hmm.
But we don't know what was said that to basically flip the switch.
Yeah, and you could easily say is from. I think he switched to a field side from boundary. I think that's what Coach Thorpe had said that he had
Mm-hmm.
done, and that made a huge difference in his play. Or maybe it all just kind of came together for him. I mean, he had talent. We saw it in training camp. We saw how talented this kid was, and I thought, okay, when he gets a chance to play, he's going to do some phenomenal things. And unfortunately, those first couple of games that he played in, it looked rough. He looked like a deer in the headlights.
Mm-hmm.
He had no answer for anything. It was to the point where like, why are they even putting this guy out there? Like he doesn't have it. Like we thought
Yeah.
he had it, but he doesn't have it. But you know what? Like you said, go home during that bye week after getting humiliated by Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
Comes back clearly a different person, clearly with a different mindset. Clearly something clicked all of a sudden, and he started playing absolutely outstanding football. He got a pick six against Calgary. He just doing outstanding things defensively, interceptions, knockdowns. I mean, he was playing some phenomenal football, and for him to get this pick six against the Argos, those same Argos that pantsed him in that first game. Talk about a full circle moment. Talk about from one end of the spectrum to the other for this young man to be able to have that, to be able to say, yes, I helped my team go to the Grey Cup with that pick six. That, my God, like that is a great story in and of its own. I mean, this game had lots of great stories, a lot of great angles to it, but the idea of Kabian Ento with a pick six in this game is just chef's kiss.
Yeah. Yeah. We'd be remiss if we didn't give props to everybody who got into the interception parade. It was like Oprah, except it was Chad Kelly. You get an interception, and you get an interception, and you get an interception. Darnell Sankey, we talk about Marc-Antoine Dequoy with his pick six in the first quarter. Kaven Entos, his 22-yard return, pick six. And also, who should be, in our opinion, was still, again, yes, we may be a little bitter about this one. Reggie Stubblefield, his interception also.
Yeah, and it's funny. He actually said to me, "I'm gonna," because we had spoken with him after we found out he was not going to be the Eastern nominee for most outstanding player, and his first thought was, "I got to do better." I'm like, I don't see how you could do better. I mean, nothing against Qantas Stiggers from the Argos, who is going to be the nominee, but I don't see how. What you did this year was nothing short of outstanding. He said, well, I'm going to bring it in the playoffs. I can promise you that. And boy, howdy, did he ever.
Yeah.
My
agreed.
God.
Obviously, there are still some things at the Alouettes. It's going to be tough, dude. I mean, we know we've already seen the schedule, and we know what it's like, being at your very first, Grey Cup, or even, the Owls' latest one. This is their first in 13 years. For a lot of these guys, it's their very first championship. So it's going to be an interesting week when it comes to practice, and by considering that the Alouettes had less than 200 yards of total offense, gave up almost 400 total yards of offense to the Toronto Argonauts. A lot of things have to be done on offense because, even though Cody was consistently consistent, the running game this past week, really was non-existent. I mean, Cody led the team in rushing. So.
Will Stanback did have a couple of nice runs, but I mean, at this point of the year, in a game like this, you got to lean heavily on everybody offensively, including your star running back like William Stanback. You got to feed him more. You got to give him the ball. You got to give the ball to Joshua Nantwi as well.
He got the ball out of the backfield. To be fair, Stanback got the ball out of the backfield on the screens, and he did a hell of a lot with his chances. Mm-hmm. But again, Winnipeg. So
that's it. You got William Stanback a powerful veteran that has done amazing things in this league in his relatively short time in the Canadian Football League, going up against Brady Oliveira, who I'm sorry to say will be the most outstanding Canadian this year, and don't be surprised if he also brings home the most outstanding player award as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like he is that guy. He truly has been a force to be reckoned with for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. He on the ground, he has done absolutely incredible things, and trying to keep up with him is easier said than done. And not only will this Montreal defense have their hands full in trying to keep him honest, like they did against AJ Ouellette and James Butler in the Eastern semifinal, but this is a tough task. There's no question about that. And for Stanback to try and match what Oliveira is able to do, I'm not saying he can't do it, but he's got his work cut out for him as well. And I sincerely hope that this Alouettes team does not abandon the run. I hope they give their running backs the chance to make things happen, because if you do, more often than not, you will see great things out of the Stanbacks, the Antwees, and if he ends up playing the Walter Fletchers too. I mean,
by the way, the Argos didn't give up on the run.
They sure did.
Even though they're backed by so much, that's the type of thing that needs to be followed. Again, it's going to be a very interesting week. Let's give some props here, Cliff, before we continue to our guys here. Cody Fajardo was 18-25, 175, 1-1. Cody actually led the team in rushing. This is where one of the things that they need to improve on. But Cody picked his spots and dude, I mean, 5 attempts for 38 yards. You can't complain. Jeshuan Antwi ended up with 16 yards and a touchdown. William Stanback only had 15 yards on 9 attempts. That's an average. William Stanback to only have an average, Cliff, of 1.7 per rush. Things need to, again, something that they need. I'm sure they will be working on this week. Leading receiver for the Alouettes was Tyson Philpott, 5 receptions for 42 yards. We're talking about it before. Stanback had 3 receptions, Cliff, 3 targets, 39 yards, his longest 25. So that's it. They took advantage of that. This is one of the things that we mentioned before in the past for William Stanback. He's improved so much over the past 2 years when it comes to catching passes out of the for him since he's come back. He's been doing such a great job out of the backfield when it comes to getting these screen passes. Austin Mack, 36 yards, 4 receptions. Tyler Snead with a touchdown. Great touchdown, too. That was into coverage, but wow. He was like a super spin move there on the goal line. 3 receptions, 31 yards. And we can't forget talking about James Tuck. It really, you see 15 yards for James Tuck on the stat sheet, Cliff, but it really does not show how his longest was 10 yards. Those 10, he was stopped for a gain of 3, but was able to extend it and continue the Owls' drive by getting another 8 and extending the Owls' drive. So, yeah,
he got the Tuck luck, as they say. It's, I mean, the guy is just, he's like a piece of iron. Like you almost don't want to hit this guy because he's just so tough. And he will grind out and get those yards, and you can't ask for more from your fullback. Like just to get those dirty yards, like that's it's not pretty, but he finds a way to make it look almost poetic. Like that's just the kind of guy like a solid veteran presence. I mean, this is a guy that's bounced around the league a little bit. Started with the Alouettes and likely going to finish his career with the Alouettes. And what better way to finish this incredible career of his than with a Grey Cup ring? And if he's involved in the game, and I have a feeling he will be, I could definitely see him making 1 or 2 plays that truly do helps push things in Montreal's favor.
Yeah, I'm really curious. Again, it's going to be interesting to see. Yeah, I think the Owls are lucky to come, I think, relatively unscathed. We do know that Sean Lemon went down, ish. So, ish. So, I'm still curious to see what, but and we know everybody's dinged up at this time of the year, so we're by the way, I know it's November, but have you noticed that all these Alouettes are starting to rock these stashes? I love it.
I mean, it is Movember.
I know. I love it, man. I really do. Any last words before we talk about what we're going to be doing at Grey Cup and talk about the upcoming matchup for Grey Cup 110 versus the Bombers?
I just got to say this victory was like nothing we would have could have possibly imagined. Yes, we thought the Alouettes could win. We thought the Alouettes should win. Did we think they would win? We thought there was a possibility, but we knew it was going to be tough. And you take a look at what the Argos have done, and you got to give them full marks. I mean, they had a hell of a season. As I said, Chad Kelly truly has become a great quarterback, and they're going to have him for years to come. And I think that's, if you're an Argos fan, you got to be feeling good about the fact that, okay, didn't get the job done. We're not going to repeat as Grey Cup champions, but this is still a hell of a team. Very well put together, very well coached for the most part. Although, like I said, this past Saturday, let's take this past Saturday out of the equation. It was just a bad day at the office for the Argos. That's really what it came down to. Like I don't want to think they were looking past Montreal. I don't want to believe that. I just think that they thought, okay, well, we got to play this game, but if we keep doing what we normally do, we will get the W. I just don't think I think they expected the Alouettes to give them a fight, but not a fight like this. Like this was beyond anyone's comprehension. And all these so-called experts, all the naysayers, all the doubters, the haters, I'm sure they were watching this game with their jaws on the floor. They just could not believe this Alouettes team, this band of misfit toys, was able to do this to the defending Grey Cup champions and get only their second win at BMO Field ever.
I know.
I mean that's mind blowing. For this team, like the Argos went 9-0 this year at home. That's incredible. But you know,
but this year, Cliff, and I think you'll know exactly where I'm taking this from. But this year, the Alouettes were the 1-9-1 at the end of the day.
100%, and what a feeling! Like when that clock hit 0, and you're just like, I was truly in shock. I mean, this really happened. This really happened. The Alouettes are going to the Grey Cup. Holy crap! Like,
13 years, dude. By the way, everybody is already mentioning that 13 years. AC number 13. I've already seen that mentioned a few times already.
Yeah, and there are Grey Cup winners on this roster. There are guys here that know how to win football games. There are guys that know how to win championships, and that's going to be crucial. We'll talk about that shortly. But I mean, like this team does have championship experience. They have been to this dance before. They just haven't been to this dance as Alouettes. So that's going to be a very, very interesting wrinkle that we're going to be discussing, no doubt, over the next couple of days.
Yeah, and when we are taping this, both teams have just recently landed in Hamilton, so there's a lot more to come. Practice will be coming up this week, and we'll talk about how we're going to be a part of Grey Cup week. But to start this matchup that's going to be on Sunday, Cliff. The early lines currently have the Bombers favored by 7.5, which is deserved. Which is deserved. And I think when we were talking on the way back on the car ride back, I think you were saying about 5 to 7, and so you're pretty spot on. We did find out, as much as to our chagrin, that we wish it was going to be something else. We did find out that the Alouettes, being the designated home team this Grey Cup, they're going to be wearing their all blues. So they're going to be wearing blue top, blue pants, and obviously the Bombers are going to go their blue pants and white jersey. So
gold pants, white jersey.
Is it gold pants, white jersey? Thank you. Yeah. But again, there's a lot. Honestly, there are going to be platitudes all week. This team is great. We know what they've done is fantastic. It's going to be a very interesting game, needless to say, come Sunday, because, It's phase 3. For the Alouettes, it's phase 3. They know, if you saw some of the post game stuff, they know they're not done. They know
No,
they know they're not done at all. So
no. The only thing a lot of people would say the only thing you've won is the opportunity to work again, another work week,
Mhm.
which ultimately leads to the goal, which is what everybody's fighting for. Like this is what you when you came to training camp this past May, the goal was to be here. Well, they're Hamilton, I should say,
yeah,
to be playing in this Grey Cup championship game, and they did it. The Alouettes did exactly what they had planned that they were going to do, and now they're representing the East. And it's crazy to think they'll be taking on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and this is the first time. Incredible to think 110 Grey Cup games in a 9-team league, and this is the first time in history that the Blue Bombers and the Alouettes will be competing for the Grey Cup. I mean, it's kind of crazy when you think about it.
there are a lot of stories for this. I mean, this will be the Bombers' 4th straight trip to the Grey Cup.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say 4 consecutive years because it is not 4 consecutive years.
No.
Um,
And this is actually going to be their second Grey Cup that they played in Hamilton.
oh my God, you're right. Oh my God. Yeah.
Thank you, COVID, for the
Yeah. But speaking of Burnsfield, you did bring up an interesting that you mentioned on the on Flight Deck Live about the Owls and Tim Hortons Field. And what was that? What was that little tidbit?
that they in 2023 they are undefeated at Tim Hortons Field with a perfect 2-0 record, and one would have to say that maybe, just maybe, they go 3-0, because one thing, if we learn nothing else in 2023, is that if you invite the Alouettes to play at Tim Hortons Field, they're going to walk away with the W. So that bodes extremely well. If you're thinking, can the Alouettes do it? Like, well, I mean, stats don't lie, right?
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting game, and obviously you'll have to stay tuned to our socials throughout the week. But again, it's just so early, Cliff. We already know what the Alouettes need to what the Alouettes need to concentrate on. It's very similar to what it was in the Toronto game. The running game, if they can do what they did to Alouette the past 2 out of 3 games, they bode very and going up against their quarterback. Nothing can't take anything away from Chad Kelly, but still, Zach Collaros, man.
He is elite.
It's going to be an interesting game. So many different storylines for this game.
Yeah, I mean, both these teams, I'd say, are defensively. I'd go so far as to say they're evenly matched. Offensively, both teams have incredible tools. Both teams have some explosive playmakers, but who's going to be able to put it together better? That could very well be the difference in this game. And I mean, there's definitely a lot to break down. There's a lot of stuff that we'll be discussing throughout the week. There's a lot to take in, and one thing that I again, it is still early, but one thing I have seen so far is not a lot of people, if they're predicting Winnipeg, they're not expecting it to be a blowout. Like, they're expecting Winnipeg will win, but it'll be in a very competitive match. Like, I think now the Alouettes are finally getting the respect that they deserve. I think after what they did to the Argos, like, I don't think anyone's thinking it was luck, because clearly, if you watch that Eastern Final, the Alouettes were not lucky in that game. They were just good. And they were good from start to finish. Like, they set the tone early and didn't let up. They didn't yield anything in this game.
Yeah.
And you're essentially going to have to do the same thing to Winnipeg, which easier said than done. But now that narrative about, the Alouettes, they can beat all the loser teams, but they can't beat the top tier teams. Well, guess what? The Alouettes not only beat a top tier team this past Saturday, they beat arguably the top tier team.
Mm-hmm.
You beat the best that this league has to offer. You sent them packing. Now you got to go and do it against arguably the second best team that this league has to offer. It's not going to be any easier, but it's a challenge, and I think the Alouettes are up for this challenge. I think they're looking at this saying, we're ready for this. We want the smoke. We want to prove ourselves against the best. We've already beaten the best, and we want to keep beating the best. And if they go in with that mindset, anything can happen.
Yeah, they keep on.
It's way too early for predictions, and I'm
Oh
not
yeah,
really wanting to
yeah.
do predictions either. But
No, but
I look at this team and I look at what they've been able to accomplish this year, and it's been nothing short of phenomenal. And I think Winnipeg is going to realize that. If they haven't realized it now, I think they're going to realize it very, very quickly this week.
yeah. Coach Moss keeps talking about the grade 8. It keep more references to that logo that they have sworn by this year, and what is within that. Continuous props to the city, to the province, to the 425, to what I mean. It's just again, it's way too early to do anything to make any predictions, but we can predict what we're going to be doing in Hamilton, can we not, Cliff?
We sure can. Very, very excited and pleased to announce that the Alouettes Flightdeck will be very well represented at Grey Cup. Very, very pleased to be given media credentials in order to attend press conferences, practices, other media events. I'm planning to be there, and I want to get as much information and ask the questions from everybody involved and bring it all to you, the great listeners of this podcast. I want to inform and entertain each and every one of you. And this, I'll be there as of Wednesday to get things going. And then Tim will be joining me for the weekend. And we kick things even further into high gear. I've got a lot of plans for this podcast for this coming week. And folks, I'm telling you right now, you better be subscribed. You better be following us. You better be dialed in. You better hit that notification bell or whatever it is that lets you know when new stuff is coming, because trust you me, there will be a lot of content coming your way from the Alouettes Flightdeck, and we want you to be a part of it. We're doing this for you. We want you on board. I kind of jokingly said, you know what, bandwagon for the Alouettes is closed. You can't jump on now after you crapped all over this team throughout the year. You can't just decide now you want to support the Alouettes. No, if you weren't with us from the get-go, sorry, bandwagon's closed. But you're free to follow us here, whether it's on the social media, on YouTube, what have you. We are going to be bringing the content. We are going to be bringing you as much as we possibly can when it comes to this Alouettes team as they prepare to play in the 110th Grey Cup game. We want you folks along for the ride, because I promise you, Tim and I are going to be bringing it. And win or lose, we're going to be at the game, and we are going to make sure that everybody sees this game from our perspective.
Yeah, and win or lose too, you can make sure that you will see the next episode of Flight Deck Live. That's one thing we can make it. That's one thing we can promise too. So,
yeah, and in fact, don't be surprised, folks, if we just decide to do a very impromptu Flight Deck Live, just right there on the spot. As I said, make sure you're following, make sure you're subscribed, make sure you get that notification, because when we go live, we want you there, and we don't want you being caught by surprise. We're letting you know right now. We're planning to bring as much content to you as possible, so make sure you're on board with us.
Exactly. So, again, we appreciate you. We thank you for joining us this season. It is not over yet. We still have a couple more weeks to go in our broadcast season, but like the Owls, we're just going to go from week to week. We're just going to go from week to week. So we got
1-0 each week.
Exactly. So
I don't know how you go 1-0 with a podcast, but we're going to go. We've been going 1-0, and we're going to keep that. We're going to keep this party going at least one more week.
Exactly. So, again, stay tuned to all of our socials, as it's going to be a very busy week. Again, make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube page. Make sure you hit the bell button for notifications from when we do go live. So, Cliff, have a safe trip. I will see you and the rest of the CFL family come this weekend, as we are there to celebrate and also to support the Alouettes in their quest to win the 110th Grey Cup. So For everybody here at the Alouettes Flight Deck, for Cliffy D, I'm Tim Capper. We're on Final Approach.